What up, people? Sorry about that. I know I've been a while. I know I do my videos kind of on my own time, but um, so today's video is gonna be about the state of pro wrestling. It's the first time I've talked about wrestling on my channel in years. That's what I used to talk about on this channel like years ago, but it just wrestling got worse. And I'll say this: there's a few things that they're doing now that I like. I like the Roman Reigns being a heel. I like Orton. So those two things are like what's carrying WWE right now. But anything else, and I'm gonna mainly focus on WWE. I might mention AEW, but I'm just gonna say right now, AEW doesn't do it for me either. I'm sorry. They have the same problem as all these other wrestling organizations. Let's go. I think the biggest one, the biggest problem with pro wrestling is, ironically, the wrestling. This incessant need to focus on what I call work rate. Meaning, like, oh, it's about the moves in the ring. I'm like, wrestling has never been about that. I mean, look at the Hogan era. The moves were like body slams and suplexes. You didn't have this crazy shit. And I get people, some people really enjoy that, but for me, this incessant need on work rate is what's partially because then you just get pointless matches. Like, you look at Raw and SmackDown every week, it's always pointless 30 minute match. See, that's the other thing. They used to only, like, you used to be able to, in the Attitude Era, you can have a match, a great match in like 10 minutes. But you can't do that now because we gotta have a 20-minute classic. And it's like, no, that's not what makes wrestling great. I've always said it's always the story and storytelling and the promos. And I think we people want to because a thing I call smarts is they cry about segments all the time, and that's why I think we're where we are now, where we got a 20-minute match. Oh, here's Apollo Crews and Aleister Black. This is the night after WrestleMania this year. They had like a 30 fucking minute match, and there was no story. Why? Like, and that's the other thing. You look at paper. It used to be like the pay-per-view matches. You'll get the 20-minute ones, and that's fine. But doing that every week on Raw, people are gonna tune out. Just focusing on this work rate stuff doesn't is not what made me a wrestling fan. It turns me off, to be honest, and I'm noticing this more and more. Another thing is the lack of characters. Everyone has to just be, I'm the best in the world, and I wrestle around the world, and that's their gimmick. You don't have a lot of people who, like, they're just guys. Nothing about them, like, you go back into, obviously the Hogan era. You had like Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, and okay, before some people start bitching and think I only want big guys in wrestling. No, even small guys like Shawn Michaels had fucking more to him than and fuck, a lot of people's favorite wrestler is Stone Cold, and people need to stop. He was never the biggest dude, height wise, muscle wise. Like, he had muscle, but he was nowhere near the most jacked dude in the company. He was never ridiculously big. So I don't understand. Like, Austin was pretty much a regular dude for the most part. I'm not saying everyone needs to be muscular, but you gotta have something about yourself that stands out and have some kind of presence. None of these guys have that. They just seem like regular dudes to me. The commentary is terrible. It's always just generic. You go back in the Attitude Era, you had like JR. I mean, even the Ruthless Aggression era. You had JR, you had Taz. Like, you had charismatic commentators. Now it's just, I don't know if they're trying to be more realistic, so they're trying to make it like sports where they're just kind of, oh, here's a move, oh, there's a suplex, oh, they're like, it's very just generic. And like, where's the fucking, you know like when Mankind threw fucking not Mankind, when Taker threw Mankind, there you go, when Taker threw Mankind off the Hell in a Cell, JR's commentary sold it. My God, it killed him. I can't do JR's voice right now, but yeah, like, just even on like a regular Raw match, JR would go crazy on commentary. I mean, and it's not just JR. You got people like Taz, who I really enjoy. But okay, and then another thing is they're only catering to one kind of audience, and that's what I call the smart audience. They're not bringing in new people. And if you go back in the golden era and the attitude era and even the ruthless aggression era, they brought in somewhat a new audience. You're not getting that now. Now it's just, I mean, look at this quote unquote NXT AEW war. They're all, you look at the numbers, it's the same group of people watching. And I think that's what it is. The same, you only have these same group of people watching. They're not really growing as a, you know, as wrestling isn't growing like that. They're not trying to get the mainstream. They only want to cater to these smarks, and it doesn't make sense because that's not how you get big. I trash the MCU all the time for for the most part, but I'll give them this. They were able to bring in an audience and make the Marvel fans. I mean, you're not seeing that with wrestling. You wrestling's audience isn't really growing now. What's another thing? I guess a few. Like AEW, I'll talk about them for a second. They don't do it for me either because they're the same problem. It's a nice setup, but there's another just smart company. They're not bringing in a new audience. They're only focusing on certain types of wrestlers. They making the same mistake I think TNA did, and oh, let's make every WWE guy. Let's grab every WWE guy that leaves. That's what killed TNA. But I mean, and even the women's wrestling has the same problem. And I'm not saying I want. Don't get me wrong. I'm cool with bra and panties matches, but I'm not saying it needs to be solely that. But at least the women back then, people could trash them. At least they all had different gimmicks. They weren't all the same. It's like the men. Oh, we're just wrestlers, and we want to show how good we are. You're boring. That's not. There's nothing to a lot of these women's wrestlers too. It's the same fucking problem. I don't care if I'm good in the ring and I want to. No, you're boring. You're boring. I mean, you don't. Um, the audience isn't growing. They're catering the smarks. They're doing like just boring. And then that's the other thing about let's just have you two go in the ring. It's lazy booking. Because all you have to do is just, oh, you and you have a match. No actual story to it, no build up. That's it. And then just doing, like, having it every week be 20 minutes, it makes the pay per view matches not even special. Because it's like, here we go, another 25-minute match that what we'd already do on Raw, or on SmackDown, or on NXT. It's like, why not? Just because, like, back in the day, how they did it is, if they did matches, the max they would go was like 9-10 minutes. And I think that is perfect. 15 at max, and if it's for like a championship, I'm okay with that. Or there's like it's a ending feud match or something. But other than that, I don't see the point in like a regular match being like 20 minutes every week. Save that for fucking pay-per-views. That's how it used to be back then. Is you would have like regular just 10-minute matches, and then at the pay-per-views you get the 20-30 minute classics, and it works because it's built up. The other thing is they need to start doing more stuff outside the ring and not just, oh, we're just gonna do everything in the ring. Do some backstage segments, do some attacks behind the backstage, do some stuff like that. They don't even do that. Like I'm gonna mention again, there's the lack of characters, and when I mean character, not like, oh, you need to be like the garbage man or something. No, I'm talking about like you gotta have something about you that's a gimmick. Randy Orton's the Legend Killer. Um, People could trash John Cena, but he was like the last true superstar. I can't even name anyone right now. The only closest is maybe Roman, but other than him, and that's even still a maybe. The only real character in WWE right now is like Bray Wyatt. He's like the only one who someone has a gimmick. And then it's another one. They fuck the same style. Everyone wrestles the same style now. Everyone has to do dives outside the ring, and it's boring because it's like everyone fucking does it now. I remember when it used to be special to see a dive every now and then, but no, not every match. Even big dudes. I like Keith Lee, but he has to do dives sometimes. It's like, big dudes should not be doing dive. Let big dudes just be big dudes. Why does, like, we already have everyone who does a dive, and now it's just same, or another one, super kick. Everyone has to do a super kick now. And that move ain't even fucking special anymore. It's just like, God, can you guys wrestle? Like, do you all have to do the same fucking move? Do you all have to do, like, another super kick, or... People get mad at WWE for they get mad at WWE for, you know, fucking using part timers, but these new guys draw. I mean, that's the main reason. None of these new guys draw. And I'm not saying it's not necessarily partially WWE's fault, but I'm not going to be going at it like every other fucking smart, oh, it's only WWE's fault. No, it's not just their fault. I also say it's somewhat the fans' fault, because these same fans were the ones who are pushing for people like Daniel Bryan. I respect Daniel Bryan, but I think that contributed to a lot of the problems. I mean, to this, we're in an era now that you have people saying, we're in an era, everyone needs to be world champion. That's another problem. You got the fans demanding that every fucking wrestler be a world champion. That's not how the. It's like in a movie. Not every fucking actor in a movie is going to be the lead. And I think wrestling is the same way. And Smarks can cry about that, and they can say, like, well, it's not the same thing. Like, no, not every fucking wrestler is world champion material. Because when you start just giving everybody the world title is meaningless. I mean, look at you go back in 2010, you had Jack Swagger win the world heavyweight title. That instantly devalued it. Dude wasn't ready. But this era, everyone needs to be world champion needs to die, because that's not, because it becomes a participation trophy. And in my opinion, the person makes the championship, not the other way around. And I think that's how they see it. Oh, you're world champion, you're ready. It's like, no, you're not. Not even necessarily. Not everyone should be world champion. Not everyone should be in the main event. That's another one. Not everyone deserves to be in the fucking main event scene. Like, there were wrestlers who served their role back in the. Because imagine these people were back in you go back in like the Attitude Era or the Ruthless Aggression Era. You have like Austin and The Rock in the main event. No, you gotta put like Essa Rios or fucking Hardcore Holly in the world title scene, or Dean Malenko, because it's their good work rate. That's the type of mentality we have now. Not everyone needs to be world champion. Not everyone needs to be in the main event. There are people who are reserved for their fucking roles. Some people are just upper mid carders at best. Because then, and you don't want to end up in a place. You got, look at what happened last year. Kofi had the WWE title for 6 fucking months, and he didn't deserve it at all. And another problem I think with wrestling is the audience has gone full SJW. Like, there's literal, like, people crying about, like, Booker, you know, like, for example, oh, WWE's never had a black world champion, even though they have. I mean, The Rock. And don't give me this, he's more no, shut the fuck up. Because then Obama's not full black then. That's fucking retarded. The Rock is one of the biggest names in wrestling. Not just in wrestling, in the world right now. If you want to keep it real, and that's where he got his start, was fucking wrestling. And then you got, and they gave your boy Kofi title for 6 months, and he made that title look like a joke. Or you get shit like JR, I guess, on AEW made like a wardrobe malfunction joke on a woman. Oh, he sexual harassment. That's what this is. And when like you go back in the Attitude Era, like fucking Jerry saying puppies and stuff like that, it's like, it was a joke, man. See, wrestling, that just shows me like the Attitude Era would not happen, or even the Ruthless Aggression Era for that fucking matter, would not happen right now, because, or definitely the Golden Era too, because Golden Era, because you got people always crying, like, you got people crying about Crime Time. Oh, they're a black stereotype. Even though wrestling has always been stereotypes. I mean, you got Italian stereotypes. You had the FBI, full-blooded Italians. If I remember, they basically were Guidos, or at least similar. You had, obviously the Asian ones, but then you had Eddie Guerrero. Couldn't you say he was kind of a stereotype? Low riders and everything, but the dude's one of the biggest names in wrestling. Stone Cold is a fucking redneck. He wears camo sometimes, rides an ATV, which is camo. Like, guys, Austin's a fucking stereotype himself, and then you got the Irish. Like, they're all everyone gets stereotyped. It's a joke. It's just what wrestling was. It was characters. Well, I got more. I probably might do a part two eventually, but I just needed to get that off my chest. I will definitely up the video game, but coming like October, there's gonna be a lot of. I'm gonna try to get some horror content done. Like, one of them is gonna be like I'm gonna rank the kills from Halloween, Nightmare, and Friday. But other than that, I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.